Okay, this is an interview of Cornelius Gray. It is Tuesday, July 30th, 2002. This is the Division Military Naval Affairs Headquarters, Latham, New York. The interviewer is Michael Russert. Could you tell me your name and date and place of birth, please?
My name is Cornelius L. Gray. I was born 26 May 1924 in Troy, New York.
Okay, what was your pre-war education, pre-World War II education?
It was rather short. I attended School 20 in Albany, New York, up to the 8th grade, Christian Brothers Academy for 4 years, graduating in June of 1942.
Okay.
My employment was a normal employment that a person of that age would have. You had newspaper routes, and you ran groceries for local grocers and things of that nature. Nothing that you would point to.
Okay. Where were you, and what do you remember when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
It was a Sunday morning. My father was going up to get his oil changed at a place called the Red Roost that was abutted Wolford's Roost Golf Course in Albany. We were getting the car serviced at that time when a radio announcement came over that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. It was quite a shock. I wasn't thinking very much about U.S. entering the war at that time, although I thought that might have been a deja vu type of thing from World War I, because you could see the blocks starting to fall in place.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I took about 3 months to think about what I was going to do. I enrolled in Siena College, attended Siena for a couple of months while I investigated various things such as OCSs and things of that nature. Became apparent to me that I was not going to get any special program that I desired, in part because my eyesight wasn't 20/20 at that time. I eventually, in December, decided I would like to enlist. I went down to the Albany Post Office then, was sworn in, and was sent to Fort Dix for processing, where we took some exams. We only stayed there for a couple of, maybe a week or 10 days. Then we were sent down to Miami Beach, which was Air Force basic training, Army Air Force basic training at that time. I had enlisted and indicated a preference for a then branch of the service called tank destroyers, but as things happened in the Army, they sent me to Air Force Basic, and despite my admonitions that I was supposed to be a tank destroyer, they said, no, you're in the Army Air Force. Apparently, after the exams that we had taken down at Fort Dix, I qualified for, or was selected for, Weather Observer School. I was sent to Chanute Field, Illinois. Took a short course in weather observation, became an accredited weather observer, was sent down to Blytheville Army Air Base down at Blytheville, Arkansas, where I performed weather observer duties for a short period, maybe 3 months or so. I was selected then for overseas shipment, processing through Kearns Field, Utah, and to Camp Anza, California, where I was put on a troop ship. We didn't know the destination at that time. It was the USS Hermitage, formerly I think the Count Blancmange, an Italian luxury liner, though it didn't have any semblance of a luxury liner when they put us on in the holds of those rather stank and crowded quarters that they had below decks. We arrived at Karachi, India, It was only then that we realized that we were headed for the China, Burma, India area. We were transferred to another troop ship, His Majesty's ship Ascania, which brought us up to Karachi, India. And we were billeted out in the Sindh Desert at a place called New Malair Cantonment. From there, we were, as weather observers, we were broken up as a unit and dispersed to various weather stations throughout India. After about a year and a half as a weather observer, I was able to take advantage of a request by the then and now defunct Office of Strategic Services, which were looking for people to assume various missions behind the Japanese lines. Being a weather observer at that time, they thought that they'd like to establish weather stations in the rear of the Japanese. I volunteered for this along with 6 or 7 other individuals. We were sent down to Ceylon, Kandy Ceylon to be specific, at a place called Camp Y, and we were trained down there in various aspects that we would need to operate on our own and in a denied area. We were trained in rudimentary communication, taught us to be able to send and receive 20 words a minute Morse code, and how to use the TR1 and the hand generators. They taught us a bit about weaponry, not only ours but others' weapons that we may come across. We were taught a small amount of medical abilities, generally how to treat people based on symptoms, not as opposed to diagnostic type of medicine. A large part of our training was jungle navigation. I personally like demolition, so I got quite a bit of training in demolition work. We had other training areas such as observation, how to tell different aircraft or Navy ships and so forth like that, identify them should we be in a position to observe them. I was then sent...
Excuse me a second, who did most of this training? Were the Americans, or did you have British training?
We were trained by a cross-section of individuals. There were some British people who were on the staff. There were American civilians, there were American officers, and some civilians that were not. One of the trainers that I remember very well was a fellow by the name of Eric Lindstrom, who was a Swede and had fought in several wars, if you will, in various parts of the world. I guess sort of a soldier of fortune, maybe. And he was particularly adept at jungle navigation, so forth. Spent a lot of time with a compass and a map in our hands, going here and there on the island of Ceylon. Eventually they did insert us behind the Japanese lines. Our mission was, since our training had become very extensive at that time and very much varied, I suppose what you might find going on in the Special Forces areas today. We went to just going in as a weather observer to various and much broader missions. Looking over some documents that I had a couple of months ago, I remember one that charged us with looking for and possibly preparing an airfield for an American group to come in and release prisoners of war. We never got to the point where we actually reconnaissanced the prisoner of war camps, but that was in our mission, and we were on our way toward that end when somebody dropped an atom bomb in Japan, and we were relieved of any further aspects of that mission. After things happened rather fast, as you are well acquainted, at the end of World War II, it was take the military back down to a bare minimum.
Can I go back a second? What was your reaction to the nuclear bomb being dropped on Japan?
I had a very selfish reaction, because at that particular time the Japanese had been aware of our presence. Our unit consisted of myself, another American, and 2 Burma riflemen that were sent behind the lines. We had probably recruited and armed about 300 Karen tribesmen, and we had been in pursuit of some aspects of our mission. We had been a little bit of a thorn in their sides. They reacted to this by sending 45 dogs and 1,900 line troops down to see if they couldn't eradicate us. We had pulled off a couple of ambushes, and I'm sure made them a little bit upset by killing some of their Kempai Tai officers that had been set up to look for us. An awful lot, I'm skipping over an awful lot. I mean, things happened every day there that would you could sit here and talk for 2 days about. But I'm just giving you the general broad brush gist of what happens. If you have any specific information you'd like, please break in and ask. But since these people were looking for us and we knew they were DFing, all right, DFing directional finders by a method of triangulating radio signals. We were sending out radio messages, and we were receiving airdrops. And by triangulation, I mean they would pick up our radio signal from point A, and another unit would pick up our signal from point B, and then they'd shoot a line, and wherever that line crossed is where our transmission supposedly would be coming from. As I said, our communications in World War II were much more rudimentary than they are today. So to answer your question, I was kind of elated that they had taken me off the hook, because I felt with the amount of pressure that was being put on us, it would have been pretty touch and go as far as we were concerned over the next maybe 30 days, and whether we'd have been able to come out of it or not, I thought was a very highly debatable question. So I probably owe my life to the atom bomb being dropped. So that's from a selfish standpoint.
Yes,
I was pretty happy that they
that's your perspective.
had gone to the trouble. Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, what was your living conditions like? Did you have anybody resupplying you at all, or did you live off the land, or what did you do?
We took in a minimum amount, obviously, of foodstuffs. We had provisions to be resupplied by air. This always didn't happen. Normally we would get an airdrop about every 3 or 4 weeks. In the meantime, we had 2 sources of food. One was the native Karens that we were recruiting, and were growing a hill type crop of rice, not in the rice paddies as we're used to seeing, but they just grew it up as you would wheat on the side of a hill. So we had some food sources from them. And then, of course, they were living, so they had food, not very much. We did a little hunting. I took the pains to bring a Silence 22 high standard automatic with me, with 22 ammunition, and I was able to supply our people with monkey meat quite a bit. So we lived off of monkeys for maybe about a month as one of our main food sources. But one of the things that had been involved in, or included in the training in Camp Y on the island of Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, was jungle survival. And some of the things we learned there helped a little bit. Not as much as you might think that you'd be able to run out in the woods and just start living off the land, but it did help, and we were able to augment our supplies a little bit from that.
What about tropical diseases like dengue fever or malaria? Do you have any problems with that?
Yeah, I contracted dengue fever, and word that's kind of lost now. I think I first came across it about a year ago for the first time since I was in World War II. Dengue fever I had before I went in. I kind of took to the medical training when we were being cross-trained in all of these different aspects of our work. And I became the medic, and I brought a little medical kit with me, which proved invaluable to some extent. This was before the days of penicillin. You didn't have penicillin. One of the things that seemed to be kind of, if not prevalent, at least obvious down there, were these large sores and carbuncles that would break out on people. I know when I came back and they put me in a hospital, I had a couple of them, and the doctor diagnosed it as GOK, and I said, "What's that?" He said, "God only knows." But we had sulfasalve and sulfamilamide powder to use on open sores, and I was able to use that to treat some of the villagers. One of my patients was the headman's wife, or mother rather, scratch wife, his mother, and he became very beholding to me because I had cured his mother of this big painful carbuncle type of sore that she had on him. So all of those little things helped, because it was the Karens were a hill tribe of people not too far removed from probably the headhunter stage. They didn't have a real high value of life, and a lot of people were being killed for various political reasons and personal reasons. Some because they thought that they were getting too close to us and maybe incurring our favor, or some because they thought that it would be just politically expedient if they didn't have anybody else that was going to be able to help us and then reap any reward, whatever that would be in the future.
Now, where was this that you were exactly?
Okay, it was we jumped into Burma along a place called the Nachi Chang, and where the Nachi Chang means river, and the Minla Chang met. That was the general area, but we moved. Now this area is down in the archipelago of Burma and Thailand, the Malaysian peninsula, south of Rangoon by about 200 miles, I would say. We were quite far behind the Japanese lines because they couldn't drop us with the normal aircraft. They had to put us in a B-24 and use different techniques to get you out, and get your equipment dropped than normally. It wasn't the traditional hook up and stand in the door and watch the green light go on and go out. They had to take a little bit more pains, and they could only drop 2 of us at once, and then they had to come back and drop our supplies, which made me a little bit nervous because you didn't want a plane crisscrossing a particular area when you went in. That's another story. They had us, they made 2 or 3 attempts to drop us. Then when they did drop us, they dropped us in the wrong place and, with the wrong equipment and all of that sort of thing. I do have an after-action report of this particular, that particular mission. If it ever comes to the point where you wanted to elucidate on it, I could bring a copy down. Now, I don't know whether I mentioned, in addition to World War II, I've already served in, I have served in Korea, and I have served in Vietnam, and I had orders for Desert Storm.
Well, yes, that's, so, you know, when you finish your discussion of World War II, we'll just keep on going.
Well, I can wrap the discussion up rather quickly because after the atomic bomb was dropped, we were evacuated or extricated. They sent what looks like a PT boat, but it was a British high-speed motor launch down and picked us up along a set of coordinates that they radioed into us, told them to meet us on the shore, and we were evacuated back to Rangoon. From Rangoon, I think we had lunch in Rangoon, and we were evacuated back to Calcutta. From Calcutta, we were flown back down to Ceylon, where we were, as members of the OSS, the 404th OSS Detachment, was under Lord Louis Mountbatten. So they were returning us to our home base. I only stayed there for about a week, and I was given orders to go back to Calcutta, flown back to Calcutta, put on a ship. We're out at the racetrack, what place they call the racetrack outside of Calcutta. A large depot, just processing people, getting them on ships, sending them back. We, after a 28-day voyage, we landed in New York City, sent down from New York down to Fort Meade, where I was discharged, put on a train, and the whole thing happened so fast you didn't have hardly any time to know what was happening. They just wanted you out of the Army because they had to cut the military down at that time. And I guess we had about 14 million people, and they had to get about 12 million of them out real fast. So at that particular point, I just wanted to get back to civilian life. I didn't feel that I wanted to stay in the military at that time. I think one of my main objectives was getting home and sleeping in my own bed, or any bed. But anyway, I returned, was discharged in October, I think it was October the 11th, 1945. So from the time that they had dropped the atomic bomb in August, you can see it wasn't very long, and not much happened administratively to us or anything. I think they put me in for a couple of medals, never heard any more about it. I suspected the people who received the request were probably on the same boat that I was on going home, and that was probably something that was very acceptable to both of us. I came back in 1945 and in October, and in January of '46 I re-entered Siena College. They took me back in. They were very nice and very amenable to taking anybody back in that had been in the service and giving them a chance at their education. The GI Bill was prevalent. We were all taking advantage of that. I took advantage of the GI Bill. I studied at Siena until 1949-50. Received a degree. Went from there. I went down to Georgetown University and continued my studies down there. I was in the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown when Korea started. It was sort of deja vu all over again. Well, what am I going to do now? I considered going back because I felt at that time, I suppose, whether it was a patriotic feeling or whether I felt it was my duty or what, I thought, well, I should go back. I had been discharged and grade a sergeant and staff sergeant in the reserves. I then received a second lieutenant's commission while I was down at Georgetown. I had applied for it. I was recalled to active duty. Dates are going to be a little bit hazy here, but that would have been about 1951, maybe. Early 51. I was sent to Fort Holabird, Maryland, probably because of my OSS involvement, which was being considered intelligence at that time. As you know, the OSS was to become the CIA, and other portions of it was to become the Special Forces. A small part of the mission was transferred to the State Department, but we sort of claim lineage in both the Special Forces and the Central Intelligence Agency. But I was sent to Fort Holabird, which was in the intelligence school, and enrolled in counterintelligence specialist, or specialty. Went through the basic training there. They probably felt I needed to learn a little bit more about the military, so they sent me to Fort Benning, Georgia for about 6 months, and I completed the officer's course at Fort Benning. Was returned to Washington, D.C. as a counterintelligence special agent in the counterintelligence course, and served with the 116th for a short time. Again, deja vu again. I was sent out to Camp Stoneman in California, preparation for overseas shipment. Wound up in Japan, as a lot of second lieutenants did, with all the special little mess officer, accounting officer, pay officer type of jobs. Was there for a short time, and I was then sent to Korea, where I was assigned to the 7th Infantry Division. Served with the 7th Infantry Division for approximately a year while they were on the line, and that coincided with the end of the Korean conflict. As the peace treaty took place, I was relieved of duty with the 7th Division, sent to the 1st Marine Division, and assigned the duty of looking into the prisoner of war exchange. We interviewed and obtained information on all the prisoners of war coming back, and tried to obtain information on those that were known to be prisoners but hadn't surfaced as a result of the Panmunjom prisoner exchange. Came back on a ship, still interviewing the individuals that were recently released prisoners, ours. Filed reports. When we arrived in California, after some administrative details were taking place with the release of the prisoners, we were given leave, and I returned to Albany, New York on leave, or Waterville, where I was living at that time. My next assignment was in New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, and Trenton, New Jersey, as a counterintelligence specialist, wearing civilian clothes now and going around performing background investigations or whatever security aspects that we were involved with. The Counterintelligence Corps in those days, as you probably understand, the members were special agents. They wore civilian clothes. They were charged with investigation of certain crimes: treason, espionage, sabotage, subversive activities, and the security of classified information. Spent some time at the field offices in Newark and in Trenton. By this time, I'd been married, well, before I left for Korea. And,
What year did you marry?
my wife's going to kill me. 1950. Well, we've been married for about 52 years. If your math is a little better than mine. But I know we were married and had a child in Newark. Mary Jo, who still resides with us, and has recently yelled at me just before I left the house today. But from Trenton, I was sent out to the Presidio of Monterey in California, which was then the Army Language School. Studied Chinese Mandarin for 50 weeks out there. I think we had 2 weeks off. So it was approximately a year's course.
How about two questions, if I could, about two individuals. You probably weren't over there when he was there, but how did you feel about MacArthur and his relief by Truman?
In Korea?
Yes.
I felt Truman was right, because I felt that obedience in the military is something that can't be ignored. Mm-hmm. He obviously ignored and was not paying attention to the chain of command. I didn't like the way it ended. I was hoping he would have, as old soldiers do, go away in a little bit more of a glorified way. But I felt Truman was very justified and had no other recourse at that time. I think Truman attempted to go in the other direction very, very much, but he just had his hands tied, and MacArthur didn't let him. Didn't give him any breathing room, so he had no particular body to blame, really, except himself.
At a time when you were doing background checks and so on, another controversial figure, how did you feel about Joseph McCarthy?
When I was in New Jersey, I was involved in the surveillance of some of the principals in that case. Cohen, the lawyer that you may remember from those days, what's the fellow that was the son of the hotel magnate, who was in the Army.
Shine?
Begin with an S.
Shine.
Close, but no cigar.
God, I can't think of his name.
It's a famous name in the hotel business. But him and a couple of more individuals, I was in the surveillance detail involved in that, so I don't really know that much about it, except I was writing reports of where they were at what time and who they were talking to and that type of thing. But
okay. So well, you continue then with.
Okay, let's see. Where was I? I was in New Jersey, huh? Okay.
You went to the Presidio.
I went to the Presidio. After the Presidio, I was given an assignment to the Far East again, served in Japan, Okinawa, and Korea, in sort of a myriad of jobs. When I got to Japan, I was assigned to the 442nd Counterintelligence Corps unit. Billeted in Tokyo. As jobs came up, it seemed like I was the fireman over there. We were moving atomic weapons back into Korea.
What year was this, approximately?
Oh boy, let's see now. 53, 54, 55, 56 in there. I should have brought a chronology of dates, but we were moving an Honest John atomic rocket battalion and a large cannon, what the hell, unit up from that was atomic capable, and this was against the tenets of the ceasefire that we had signed, that we wouldn't bring in, or nobody would bring in new and additional weapons or so forth. So that was kind of a security type walk that we were running, and I was assigned as a security officer for the 100th Rocket Battalion. In fact, I think we got the designation while we were moving of 100th Rocket. Don't know what happened to them. I don't see them on the Army's list anymore, but it was a Nike or Honest John type of unit. And we did have the warhead with us. We were atomic capable. So we went over there and we got set up there. And once that was completed and they were there and they were set, I was relieved from my intelligence duties there, sent back to Tokyo, where I was then sent with the Special Forces. I suppose, having had jump training and being jump qualified and so forth, they might have selected me for that reason. But Special Operations Detachment, Far East, which was in effect the 1st Special Forces, but not using that designation, were being sent down to Okinawa. And I was sent down with them as part of the movement down to get them settled. Sounds like I might have had a lot to say or do about things, but actually that wasn't the case. I was just assigned and I was told to do this job or that job, and that's all that happened. So we went down, got them settled down in Okinawa, and then I was sent back to Tokyo. By this time a lot of my time had expired on my tour, so I was sent again back to the United States. Again, the 108th CIC detachment that was headquartered in New York City, but my duty station was in Syracuse. And again back into civilian clothes and pushing doorbells, as we used to term it, running background investigations and so forth. Spent a year or so in Syracuse, and was then sent back to Fort Halliburton for about the 5th time. They kept sending me back for short courses on this or that, but this time they sent me back for a year course in advanced intelligence operations. And I spent the year in Fort Halliburton. Upon graduation, in fact, I stayed over and took another course in something they called field operations, which was vetting individuals that would go into a denied area to obtain information and that type of thing.
Now, what years were these? These in the late 50s, early 60s?
No, this would have been early 60s.
Early 60s.
Yeah, and I was, at my request, and having quite a bit of overseas service in the Far East, I asked if I could be sent to Europe, just a matter of personal preference. My assignments in the Far East had been a little bit jumbled up in as much as I was being moved every once in a while, and I couldn't have my wife and daughter with me. So I felt that would be a little bit more of a stable tour over in Europe. So they assigned me to headquarters 5th Corps in Frankfurt, Germany, where we enjoyed a 4-year tour. A lot of sightseeing type travel around Europe.
We're going to stop the tape for
like you said, this after-action report from Burma and so on, and you know, some things that we could maybe copy and put into your file.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We're ready to
Are we
go.
rolling yet?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So 4 years in Europe with a lot of field operations and exercises with the headquarters 5th Corps, because we were then kind of jumping at the bit with the Russian Cold War syndrome being on. Checkport Charlie was in the big the news every night, and they were building walls, segregate us, and Europe that we knew over there and then was divided and subdivided into different areas: British, French, or United States, or other Russians.
Were you still working intelligence when you were there, or?
I had an intelligence assignment in 5th Corps, yes, but I was in uniform. I was not undercover in civilian clothes while I was in Europe. I concluded my tour over there. I was head of an MI detachment in a Corps level unit, 5th Corps to be specific. Had some interesting experiences over there, which I'm not sure we should go into at this particular time, but and they may still be classified, so I can't speak to them unless I find out a little bit more of what I'm doing. We were returned to the States, sent out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I was assigned to an organization called DASA, Defense Atomic Support Agency. This was nothing more than the atomic weapons program. I did a couple of years there, and was involved in military security more than intelligence. Another aspect of counterintelligence was the security of classified information. So I was involved with the weapons program and took a couple of courses out there at a place called Sandia Base. There was a network of bases that were involved in this program, and I did a little bit of traveling back and forth, both as part of an Inspector General inspection team and as a security advisor for protection of classified information and material. Well, at Sandia Base, my wife and I enjoyed it out there very much. We liked New Mexico. But I received orders for Vietnam. I was sent over and assigned to the 11th Armored Cavalry.
What year was that?
Okay, let's see, 68, 69, probably maybe 64, 65. Might have been my tour there, 64, 65, maybe into 66. Again, I apologize for not having these dates at the tip of my fingers. I served as the commanding officer of the 541st MID, which was a portion of an assigned unit to the 11th Cav. Just about everything the 11th Cav had was on tracks, except we had wheeled jeeps with machine guns on them. So had I almost said had a good year in Vietnam. I don't know whether you can have a good year in Vietnam, but you can't use enjoyable. What word can you use? I suppose beneficial year there, that I felt that we were doing something that was, in the overall scheme of things, beneficial to mankind. I thought we were, at that point in time, preventing the subjugation of a large portion of Southeast Asia, and though it might have been politically advantageous to us to do that, it was also personally advantageous to us because we were on the right side of the ethical and moral questions. That was my approach to Vietnam. I'm sure that is not universally shared back here in the United States at that time, but I thought that we were doing a service to the people in South Vietnam and keeping those that wanted to stay free. They all didn't like us, obviously. There were those that I'm sure that were ready, willing, and able to shoot us if they had the opportunity. But in any event, the normal things that would happen in a combat situation, you ran your reconnaissance patrols, you ran your ambush patrols, you did what you had to do to one thing I didn't agree to, I thought when you took land or territory you should keep it, but that wasn't the case in Vietnam. You took it and then you went back and went someplace else and maybe come back and try to take it all over again the next day. I never really understood that particular concept. Wasn't too happy with that concept because I didn't like casualties, and one of my aim was to prevent as many casualties on my own people as we could. That was first and foremost in my mind at all times, even if you had to hold back a little bit. Came back from Vietnam. Now I'm assigned to Detroit, the 113th CIC detachment with duty station at Detroit, Michigan. Stayed there until August of 1968, at which time I felt, and I'm now I have about, for retirement purposes, about 27 plus years in the military, and I felt that this was the time to get out and get another job and prepare myself for a second career, and also give my wife and my daughter a little bit more stability. They had been great troopers, putting their stuff on moving vans every time I came home with a smile on my face and, hey, we're going too, you know, and they put up with that, so I figured I owe them a little bit. I returned here to the Albany Ward of Elite area. Within a month, I was lucky enough to be picked up by the then Atomic Energy Commission. I stayed with them for about 4 or 5 years until they came out with a program saying that you couldn't receive 2 pensions from the government. So I was forced then to leave them. I took about a year off, traveled over in Europe with my daughter, and to give her a little bit of a sophistication, and came back and was picked up by General Dynamics, and again because of my association with the atomic weapons program, I got picked up by Admiral Rickover in his Navy nuclear propulsion program and sent up to the Kesselring site for the SHE project, where I was the security administrator and all the jobs you don't want, labor relations, OSHA, everything you can get in trouble with they gave me. And I went up there, and they were nice enough to give me a retirement when that job concluded up there. So that brings you kind of up to date. That was some time ago, and since then I've been kind of working for my wife, doing what she tells me to do.
It's probably the hardest job you had.
It's the worst job I ever had. My efficiency reports are terrible. I get no vacation, no pay. And my mission has changed 4 or 5 times a day. Gentlemen, I don't have any more.
Well, did your feelings about our presence in Vietnam ever change? About our mission in Vietnam?
Overall, no. I don't know that anybody can say that they like any of the wars that they've been in. I think you'd be a different type of cat if you said you enjoyed a war or you wanted to be in a war. But we've had 500 wars since World War II of various types. There's probably 5 going on in the world today. I don't know how you get away from this extension of politics, which is the armed forces, and the employment of the armed forces as an extension of politics. I don't. It would be nice if we could, but I have no way that I can tell you that that's ever going to happen.
Do you have any questions? No. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think this was a very fascinating interview.
Well, I hope.
Do you have any other things you might want to add?
Gee, I think I talked for quite a while.
Well, we don't want to turn the camera off and have you think of something else.
Well, of course, when you're going back over an extended period of your life and you're trying to recall things in sequence,
yes.
And you're a little bit, as I am, ill-prepared because I didn't war game this as I should have. I hope that it made sense and there was enough continuity there that it's not going to be forever.
What experience do you think out of your long career in the military do you think was the most memorable to you, or was the overall experience memorable?
Well, the military, of course, as everyone knows, has so many facets of life in it, just as the civilian community has. The military has doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, they have veterinarians, they have architects, they have engineers, they have everything that you can point to in civilian life is duplicated in the military. So whatever your background or your experience in the military is going to be, it's of nature has to be very myopic. It has to be centered down as to where you were and what you were doing. An infantryman might feel that that's a special forces type would feel this is the way things are. And as I say, it's very myopic because you're looking at the points that go. I've always been interested since the military in the intelligence aspects of our government, what we've been doing, how we've been doing it, and whether we were doing it as well as we should be doing it. I suppose that's because of your background and your associations with various things that have gone. I feel I was lucky in the military, and then I was able to have a fairly wide breadth of experience. The military, I thought, was a good choice, even as I sit here today. Never going to become rich being a soldier, but you're going to gain a lot of other things. You're going to gain from your experiences, your associations. I came away with the thought that I was probably associated with the highest type of constituents, fellow human beings while I was in the Army that I'll ever be associated with. Not only from an intelligence standpoint or an academic standpoint, but from an ethical and moral standpoint. That may sound like it's something that somebody wants to challenge me on, but that is my true experience with the members of the military. By and large, I'll put them up against any segment of the human race that you can look at. But it's been a long time, too. The one thing I did have, I didn't mention, at some point in time, when Desert Storm was going on, they sent me orders to with an assignment to Fort Drum, complete with MOS and all of that, and they never took effect because the bottom line was be prepared to move in 7 days from the date you receive a telephone call or a telegram. And they did call me a couple of times just to verify that I was able to be contacted, but I never got any further than that. And I'm not too sure the Army would have been too happy with my physical abilities during Desert Storm.
Do you belong to any veterans organizations?
Oh, a lot of them. I'm active in the North Albany American Legion post. Don't hold any office, but I'm active down there. I belong to the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I belong to any number of organizations affiliated with groups that I had served with. You mentioned Bob Burns. I belong to the China, Burma, India theater group. I belong to the 11th Armored Cavalry Association. I've gone to a couple of their reunions. Belong to the 7th Infantry Division Association. I belong to what is now the Society of OSS. It used to be the OSS veterans, but there's not too many of us left, I guess. Probably a couple more that I can't think of. I'm not active in any of them. You know, I send them my dues or something and let it go with that. Yeah, I got the Burma Star Association over in England. I belong to the Burma Stars. But,
have you had any contact with any people you served with? Do you maintain contact with anyone?
Minimally. There's just a couple of people that are still with us. Fellow down in Miami, worked for the Miami Herald, Alan Cross. I exchange phone calls with him at Christmas time, but it's how are you? How's the wife? I'll see you. You know, that's it. I don't have any ongoing contacts. A few that I had of people that I felt were very close to me have passed on. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes.